point over the next 50 to 60 minutes. The next one won't be until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So, just remember that. But either way, as we get ready to venture to the left-hand side. What's that? As we head over to the left-hand side, keep looking to your left, you'll be able to see the Royal Dock. Now, the Royal Albert Dock was opened in 1846, and it was revolutionary because it was the first docking system in the world that was built out of cast iron, stone, granite, slate, and brick. There is no wood in its construction whatsoever. In fact, it was designed by an architect called Wayne Shields. And Wayne Shields not only designed this, but he also went on later in his life to invent the polo mint as well, believe it or not. It's quite an interesting career. He designed the Albert Dock and also the polo mint as well. So, a lucrative business. Polo and architecture. Very good. Now, interesting as well, the Albert Dock to your left-hand side. If you look in the middle section, where those red pillars come around, so that is where you'll find a whole host of shops, restaurants, cafes. There's museums there as well, and hotels. But they used to be the storage facilities, and it's where all the goods were taken directly into storage. Main things being silk, cotton, tobacco, brandy, ivory, and tea. Look over to your right-hand side, down the pathway there by the trees, you will see the upside-down house. Go inside there, and everything will be living in a topsy-turvy world. Go and stand on the roof of this building, get photographs taken. It's a whole house filled with upside-down illusions. Looking over to your left, you'll see we've got Canning doctors here, named after former Prime Minister George Canning. He went down in the history books to be the Prime Minister of Great Britain with the shortest term in office, until of course Liz Truss came and did 49 days work experience in Downing Street, and somehow managed to make Britain even worse than it was at that time. But slowly but surely, we're clawing our way back. It's trying. Now as we head a little bit further down this street, we're going to be turning left in just a second. Now as we get ready to turn left, we're going to be heading towards the most photographed statue in all of Europe, just in front of us as we turn this corner. We estimate that during British summertime, which yes, that is now, we have up to 12,000 visitors to the statue every single day. So it has to be of something very exciting. What exactly could it be of? Well, have a little bit of a think, and if you've not been around this stop number 2, and this is the best place to hop off the bus, if you're wanting to go explore the Mersey Ferry terminal, if you're wanting to go and visit the Three Graces, which are these 3 wonderful buildings to your left, which are said to grace the waterfront of the city. And also if you're wanting to go and visit this statue we've just mentioned, we'll be talking more about that in a few moments. Also there's other famous statues around here as well. There's a famous statue on the waterfront of someone called Johnny Walker. Now nothing to do with the whiskey. Johnny Walker was a famous Liverpool sailor who did some wonderful things in the 30s, 40s. Here we go. So, first up folks, directly in front of you, I'm afraid there are people having their photographs taken with the statue, so no chubba chubs today. But you can see why the statue is so popular. It is because it is a statue of the greatest band of all time. There they are in all their glory, Bananarama. Aha, we jest of course, it's really. Everybody knows Bananarama are the 14th greatest band of all time. This here is a statue that was sculpted by an artist called Andy Edwards. He's done 4 statues in Liverpool. We'll be seeing another one of his later on, and the other 2 that he's got in the city centre are in pedestrianised parts of the city, so we won't be able to see them from this bus. But if you want to go and see them, we can point them out to you. That's the way you need to walk. They're not too far away from certain stops. Now we're going to head around this roundabout in front of us and come back on ourselves, and that's where we'll be stopping for bus stop number 2. Just in front of us, you'll be able to see the Museum of Liverpool. This museum tells the story of the city from 1207 through to present day. Look at the big rectangular window at the front. That window was voted the best window in Europe in 2017, which begs the question, just how boring was that award ceremony? But either way, we won, so we try not to complain too much. But this museum tells the story of the city from 1207 through to present day. And it also turned 13 years old over the weekend, so happy birthday to the museum. The museum has a special exhibition dedicated to the life of Ken Dodd at the moment. You can go inside and you can see some of Ken Dodd's props, his joke journals, and you can also go and see his tax return as well. So once the bus stop ahead of us is clear, we're moving on down. Here we go. So welcome now everybody to bus stop number 2. We've got a few people joining us at this stop. So we'll grab their seats before we head on that continuation into the city.
Oh, I'm going to come off. Coming off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
No, you can
Got someone coming down first, please, John.
You can put your bag back. Thank you very much indeed.
No problem. See you later now. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Going upstairs?
So, hello to everyone who's just joined us here at bus stop number 2. Welcome aboard the City Explorer. This is our last lap of the day on this bus. My name is Gary L, and our driver downstairs is the wonderful John, keeping us safe from behind the wheel. We'll be heading on from here in just a moment. Now, before we do, the 3 buildings to your right-hand side, the one immediately on the right with the big dome on the top, this is the Port of Liverpool building. Dates back to 1907. Former headquarters of the Mersey Docks and Harbour Board. It's in this building in which all the administration for the docks was calculated.
You alright up here?
So now Liverpool was the world's busiest port in the 18 and early 1900s. It said that 40% of the world's shipping trade passed through Liverpool, and everything was documented in this building to your right-hand side. Not only that as well, this building to your right was the filming location for the most recent Taylor Swift music video called You Can See Me Now. When they were making that earlier this year, they put up a massive wall all around the outside of this building so the public couldn't see what was being filmed. However, our bus tours were still taking place. There was someone who was sat on the upper deck on the very back row who was a Swiftie, which is young person language for a Taylor Swift fan. They immediately recognised who Taylor Swift was from behind the wall, and they took a photograph of her whilst eating her lunch on set. She was having a vegan curry. They then sold this photograph to the Daily Mirror newspaper for £7,500. So keep your phones with you at all times. You never know who you're going to see on this tour. In fact, I saw a minor celebrity earlier on today. So someone called John Greenall, who was a famous music producer. Over to your left-hand side, we can see the Cunard building. This here is the former headquarters of Cunard Shipping Line, but today it's home to the British Music Experience, the only dedicated music museum in the UK. Inside this building to your left, they have one of the greatest things you will find in any museum in the country. They have something called the dance booth. You go inside this small room, as soon as the door closes, the entire wall in front of you turns into a screen. And on this screen appears the names of 50 different musical artists. If you press on the name of the artist you like best, a dance instructor then appears and gives you a 5-minute dance tutorial of how to dance like your selected artist. After the 5-minute dance lesson, you then appear on the screen as if dancing side by side with your chosen artist, and it's a lot of fun, but what they do not tell you in advance is that the wall behind you is a one-way mirror visible to everybody in the gift shop. So everybody in the gift shop can then see you dancing to people like Madness or The Specials or Beyonce, Shakira, the Spice Girls, whoever you choose. The general public will see you dancing away, so please do bear that in mind. But interestingly as well, as we get ready to head further down this road, you will see the building just ahead of us on the left-hand side. This is the third of the 3 greatest, although technically in terms of age, it's the middle child. This was the first official skyscraper in Europe. It was the tallest building in Europe from 1911 until 1948, when it was overtaken by a building in Rome in Italy. And its name is the Royal Liver Building. And this is the most beautiful and iconic building in all of Merseyside after Goodison Park. But not only that as well, this particular building, we'll be turning left in a second so you'll be able to see it more clearly. This building, at the top of it, contains the Liver Bird statues. The Liver Bird statues are the emblem of our city of Liverpool. And you can see the statues, they are 18 feet tall, so they are taller than this bus. And the statues are named Bella and Bertie. It said Bella is the Liver Bird who looks out across the river, keeping her eye on all of the sailors to make sure they have safe passageways up and down the river. And Bertie is the one who looks inland, and he's looking to see which pubs have the shortest queue. Just ahead of us on the left-hand side of the road, this stone memorial with a golden flame at the top of it. This is the Titanic Memorial. I have no idea who thought that it was a good idea to place the Titanic Memorial outside the entrance of the cruise terminal. Seems a bit ominous to me, but either way, that's where it stands. And Liverpool's cruise terminal is here on the left-hand side. We have, on average, 130 cruise ships arriving in the city every year. Our next cruise ship will be arriving Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. and it will be arriving from one of the most magical locations on planet Earth. It'll be arriving fresh from Portsmouth. Now look over to your right. You'll see the clocks on the top of the Liver Building. Now there are clock faces around 3 sides of it on each of the towers. But interestingly, the clock faces you can see, well, they are actually the largest in Europe. So those clock faces are 2.5 feet wider than those down on the Houses of Parliament, which is where Big Ben lives. So yes, Big Ben, you may have all the £80 million refurbishments you desire, but we still have bigger clock faces than you in the north, so 1-0. Just ahead of us, you'll also be able to see here the church, which is known as the Sailors' Church locally. The official title of it is the Church of Our Lady and St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas, of course, being the patron saint of thieves, vagabonds and Christmas, so a particularly busy chap. But it's known as the Sailors' Church because this was the tallest building in Liverpool before the construction of the Liver Building. So when the sailors would see this on the horizon, it dominated the skyline, and they would knew that they were almost home and back in Liverpool. They would also use it as a homing beacon. In fact, can you see the golden ship at the top of the tower? Now it said that golden ship would reflect the sunlight down to the boats on the river and help navigate them into the docks. So that would have been useful about 4 times a year in Liverpool. But either way, it's still there to this day. And now, as these lights change, we're going to be heading over to the right-hand side. But look at the road in between the church and the Mercure Hotel. This road up here, can you see about 100 yards up on the right, painted right at the base, there is a pub called the Pig and Whistle. The Pig and Whistle was the first pub in Europe to have a Prosecco tap. Very important, because it's always Prosecco time in Liverpool. Now, as we head a little bit further down this street here, this building on your left-hand side is called Tower Building, and it was designed by the same architect who also did the Liver Building, which is to your right. So he designed both of these buildings just here. Now, Tower Building on your left, you can see it's got these tiles on the outside of it. These are self-cleaning tiles. It's said that the rainier Liverpool is, the cleaner this building looks, which is why it tends to be quite shiny. We're quite a rainy city. Just ahead of us, on the left-hand side, through the lights here, this building, you can notice above its ground floor doorway and windows on the corner there, it's a former bank building. It says bank just above it. But today, this is home to a luxury restaurant named Oh Me, Oh My. And we must tell you, this restaurant is named Oh Me, Oh My, because that's exactly what you say when you receive the bill from having ordered inside. I went there for my lunch a few weeks ago. I had 1 cup of tea, and it was £6.75. And to make things even worse, it was Tetley's, which we all know, Tetley's has the taste of dirty dishwater. We're going to be turning left at the next set of lights. As we turn left, you'll see on the corner there is a red and white striker building. This is known locally as the Streaky Bacon building. But this building here we are. This is the former headquarters of White Star Shipping Line, this building. So it's in this very building that the Titanic was designed and registered. You'll notice in the first floor windows, models of the Titanic, both on this side of the property, and as we turn left, you'll see them there as well. So, the Titanic had Liverpool written on the stern of the famous ship, and that was because its story began right here, not only in Liverpool, but in this very building. And the ship was then constructed over in Belfast in the north of Ireland. As we turn to the left-hand side, look to your right, you can see a Wetherspoons called Captain Alexander, one of 7 Wetherspoons in the city, and it's also the 7th best in my opinion. Also on your right-hand side, you're about to see the King Victoria Monument. It's a statue of Queen Victoria, but everybody in Liverpool refers to it as King Vic. There it is, just ahead on the right-hand side. Now the reason we call this statue King Victoria, well, how can I put this delicately? In her right hand, she's carrying a royal scepter. As we drive past these traffic lights and go straight ahead, keep looking side on waist height, and, well, let's just say this royal scepter pokes out in a somewhat kingly manner. Now, I don't like the name King Victoria, to be honest. I think it's too crude. I can call it Victoria's Secret. But either way, there you are. You're welcome. We're now approaching bus stop number 3. Ring the bell if you wanted to stop here. This is for Liverpool One Shopping Centre, which is the largest outdoor shopping centre in Europe, which is to your right. And also, the Cavern Club is just around the corner to your left. Now, as we do stop here, you'll notice a shop on the corner to your left-hand side, Boodles and Dunlop. This is the oldest shop in Liverpool. They have been trading as a jewellers on this street corner since 1798. And what's interesting about it is myself and driver John downstairs, we have a combined living in Liverpool between us, and neither of us have ever known anyone to ever place anything inside this shop. So we have no idea how they are still open for business. You'll also notice as well, one closer to us, we've got Yanni Traditional Fish and Chips, which has been voted the best chippy in Liverpool for the last 5 years in a row. It was also voted the best fish and chips in England all the way back in 2013 as well. And then again, L1 Mills on the left-hand side is where myself and driver John are going for our manicure, so we clock off in an hour. Maybe see you there. But in just a second, we're going to be turning to the left-hand side. As we turn left, we're going onto a road called North John Street. North John Street doubles as Washington, D.C., the American capital, in TV shows Peaky Blinders, Foyle's War, and The Crown. So if you watch any 3 of those TV shows, every time you see them in the American capital, it's all actually filmed on this very street we're about to join in a second. There's a hotel on North John Street called a Loft Hotel. Outside their main entrance, they have the American flag draped above it. That was a prop from when you were filming The Crown here back in 2019. The management said, "We like the prop so much, can we keep it here permanently?" It makes the hotel look like it's got a bit more gravitas. So yes, they have no links to America. They just think it makes them look a bit cooler. And in fairness, it does. You'll see a Hard Day's Night hotel on the right-hand side. The second Beatles statue is supposed to be George Harrison, but if you ask me, it's definitely a Billy Connolly statue gone wrong. Also to your right here, after the hotel ends, we've got Matthew Street, where you'll find the Cavern Club, the famous venue where the Beatles played 292 times between 1961 and 63. Liverpool is in the Guinness Book of Records for being the most musical city in the world. 60 number ones have come from Liverpool artists. You'll find on Matthew Street the Wall of Hits, special plaque on the wall for every one of those number 1 records. Just down on the right-hand side here, we're running parallel to Matthew Street. In fact, of the 60 number 1s that have come from Liverpool artists, 18 of them are the Beatles, so even if the Beatles wouldn't exist, we would still be number 1 by quite a long way. The first ever British number 1 single was in 1953. It was by an artist called Lita Rosa, and it was the absolute banger of a track. How much is that doggy in the window? Heading further down this road here. Take a little bit of a look to your right-hand side. The shop, well not a shop, sorry, the building on the corner to the right is the Conservation Centre. This building is where works of art from around the world that have been damaged are brought to be restored. There's an original Turner painting in there at the moment that was being hung in a gallery in Newcastle when somebody dropped it and shattered the bottom right-hand corner of the canvas. So once it's been restored, it'll be heading back up to the northeast, presumably with bubble wrap and cushions underneath it as well, just in case. But the reason why they've got these massive doors on the right-hand side is because it used to be a mechanics for broken down train carriages. It's where you would bring all of the broken down trains to be restored before sending them back to Lime Street train station. This was before the days of the invention of the turntable, where you could spin the train around on its track and put it on a different line. As we head through the traffic lights here, we've got 2 hotels facing off against each other. The Red Brick Hotel on the left-hand side is the Dixie Dean Hotel, named after the famous Everton striker, the only footballer in the world of football to have ever scored 100 goals in one season. And on the right-hand side is the Shankly Hotel, But nobody knows or cares who Bill Shankly was, so let's move on. Now, if you look through the trees to your left-hand side, you'll see a pub called the Ship and Mitre. That is my second favourite pub in the city. I do have an extensively well-researched top 30 list. If you need more recommendations, then see me at the end of this lecture. Also on the left-hand side, we've got the Queensway Tunnel, the world's longest underwater tunnel when it opened in 1934. It celebrated its 90th anniversary this weekend just gone, on Saturday it was, and the tunnel was opened by King George V. If you don't know who King George V is, it's Colin Firth's dad in the King's Speech. But this tunnel is also featured in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, where Harry avoids being captured by the Death Eaters. He rides in the sidecar of Hagrid's motorcycle. It was filmed inside here. And also, it features in Fast and Furious 6, which is a film that can best be described as existing. On the left-hand side, we've got St. John's Gardens. This is where the Anglican Cathedral was supposed to have been built. They tore down the Church of St. John here in 1898 to build the cathedral, but only then to discover the plot of land wasn't large enough, so they had to build it somewhere else instead. So they turned it into a garden space instead. Just ahead of us, on the right-hand side, this red brick theatre is Liverpool's Royal Court. This is where many famous bands and artists have performed over the years. Bands like the Beatles, the Doors, the Rolling Stones, the Who, the Beach Boys, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, David Bowie, Rage Against the Machine, all performed here. And on this very day, 40 years ago, the second greatest British band of all time, in my opinion, performed on this stage with their original lineup for the final time. This band was Slade. If you are unfamiliar with Slade, then all you need to do is imagine Oasis if they have a slither of talent. And then you have Slade. The difference between Slade and Oasis, of course, is Slade know how to play their own instruments and write music. And they were very much the Beatles of the 1970s. If you're unfamiliar with Slade, I have a Spotify playlist with my top 50 Slade tracks. If you would like that, I can send it over to you at the end of this tour. And I've been doing this job for 6 years and no one has asked for it as of yet. But either way, if you wish, it can be yours. But it's also in this very theatre in which Dame Judi Dench made her professional stage debut. That was all the way back in 1957. She was 22 years old, and it was a performance of William Shakespeare's Hamlet as well. It's this theatre which also started the careers of actors such as Ivor Novello and Richard Burr. Now, as we go further up this road, over to your left-hand side, you will see a building here with pillars coming out. This is St. George's Hall, a multi-purpose building that opened in 1854. It was a crown court, a jail, a reading room, a concert gala hall, a fine dining room. It was also home to Europe's largest organ, which I can confirm was a musical instrument. Not only that as well, this building has featured in a whole host of film and TV over the years. Again, it's featured in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, the recent Ghostbusters film, Across the Universe, Nowhere Boy, Peaky Blinders, In the Name of the Father, The Hunt for Red October. And also, it doubled as Gotham City Hall in the recent Batman film with Robert Pattinson. At the start of that film, Batman runs across the street, up the steps behind the pillars, and inside the venue to confront the Riddler, the big villain of the film. But if you watch that scene back, you will notice Warner Brothers, the production company, made a massive mistake. They forgot to remove the bright yellow bus stop outside the main entrance. Batman runs right past this bus stop, and visible on screen for 5 seconds is a poster which reads Mersey Travel Bus Service 17. Which means, rather than go inside and fight the Riddler, Batman could have waited for 15 minutes, paid £2, and hopped on the 17 bus which would take him to Anfield Stadium. 6 months after that film was released, they had to move the bus stop away because so many Batman fans were strolling into the middle of the road here to your left and taking selfies with the bus stop and the hall behind them. So for health and safety reasons, the Batman bus stop was relocated to London Road. When word spread that the Batman bus stop was being relocated, a Batman collector from Ohio got in touch with Liverpool Council and said, I believe you are moving the Batman bus stop. I'm a Batman collector. Is there any chance I can have it for my collection? And they said, well, of course you can have it, but you'll have to pay for it to be flown over to you. And it's very heavy. It's made of glass, steel, and metal. The weight of it is quite bulky. They priced it up, and they said, if you want it, it's going to cost you £7,000. This man replied to that email from the Liverpool Council within the space of 3 minutes and said, no problem, how can I pay? That means that some absolute nutter has paid £7,000 for a Liverpool Council bus stop, which is now in his basement. He has a website, BatmanBusStop.com, and you can pay $5 to go into his basement and have photographs taken with the Batman bus stop. And how do I know this? Well, it's because I paid $5 to have a photograph taken with it. I travelled 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. And in Ohio, I went into some man's dark basement to have a photograph taken at the Liverpool bus stop, in which there are many already in this city. But yes, that is the level of anorak you are dealing with here, folks. Over to your left-hand side, you can see Lime Street train station. This is the oldest terminal train station in the world. It dates back to 1836. They are also the original glass archways over the top there as well. And this very street is also called Lime Street. It's not just the name of the train station. Lime Street is where a famous Liverpool figure used to dwell called Maggie May. She was a lady of the night. She would walk up and down this street going into the various pubs. Her favourite was the Crown Hotel, just ahead to your left. And she would try and entice the sailors to go home with her. She was arrested 87 times. On the night of her 87th arrest, she was taken in front of the judge at St. George's Hall, just behind us. And the judge said, "Maggie, I am sick and tired of seeing your face. Therefore, as punishment, tomorrow morning you are banished from the United Kingdom." She was placed on a ship at Liverpool docks to head away from drizzly, dreary, grey England to the tropical paradise of Australia, where she opened a saloon and became the 1880s equivalent of a multi-millionaire today. She made her fortune. Her story was immortalised in the Liverpool folk song Maggie May, which was most famously covered by the Beatles on their final album, Let It Be, which was released in 1970. Now, as we head further down this street here, over to your left-hand side, you can see the Adelphi Hotel. Now, this used to be one of the most luxurious hotels in the world. To give you an idea of how fancy this hotel was in its prime, some of the famous people who have stayed here over the years gone by include the likes of Charles Dickens, Winston Churchill, Eleanor Roosevelt. Roy Rogers and his horse Trigger had a special stable built around the back that was later used by Redbrook. Laurel and Hardy, Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Doris Day, James Dean, James Stewart, James Franco, Gregory Peck, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Nat King Cole, Judy Garland, Shawani Wadi, Kachagugu, Elton John, Johnny Cash, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, David Bowie, David Beckham, Rod Stewart, Oliver Reed and Jedward have all stayed in that hotel over the years gone by. Heading further up this street, we are now approaching the Knowledge Quarter. This is where you'll start to see a lot of university buildings and, of course, university students. There are 80,000 university-level students in Liverpool, and everyone you will see on the streets around here will be a student. So as we drive past them, just look at the hope in their eyes. There are three main universities in Liverpool. There's the University of Liverpool, that's where all of your intellectual students go. And then there's John Moores and Hope University, and that's where you go to study the silly subjects. Now, coincidentally, they're the two that I attended. So you can go to the University of Liverpool and become a doctor, a surgeon, or a lawyer. Or you can go to the other two and have a good time, so you decide. But either way, I'm happy with my choice, because it led me you lovely people on this fine Monday. At the very top of this street on the left, you see one of the most famous university buildings in the world. It has a clock tower attached to it, right at the top on the left-hand side. It's the first red brick university building in the world. It's where the term Red Brick University derives from, and that is still owned by the University of Liverpool. A section of that building is under scaffolding. That's the University Museum, which has been getting renovated for the last 18 months. It reopens in 2 weeks. If you're not in Liverpool longer than 2 weeks, you will not be able to go inside, but that may be a blessing in disguise, because you have to have a strong stomach to see what's inside there. It's a museum dedicated to Victorian dentistry. Inside this museum is a set of false teeth which belonged to a member of the royal family in the 1850s. These teeth were made of wood, chipped off an oak tree at the back of where Buckingham Palace today stands. After having them inside her mouth for 10 years, she began complaining of sore gums. The royal dentist had a look and discovered that after 10 years of use, they had splintered into the gum and drastically become infected. So he recommended extraction. Anaesthetic wasn't allowed to be used by members of the royal family at this time because they weren't sure of the after effects. So the royal dentist gave her 4 bottles of wine and said, "Down these, and then when you start to feel nice and tip, I'll pull them out." So she drank the Jacob's Creek, I believe, and then when she was tipsy, he fastened the clamps to the top front 4 teeth, and on the count of 3, he pulled as hard as he could, and the teeth came out fine. The only problem was they were so rotten and infected, the gums came out still attached to the teeth. You can go inside this museum, behind the scaffolding on the left-hand side, when it reopens in 2 weeks, and you can see the rotten wooden royal false teeth with gums still attached, preserved in medical fluoride. There is a sign outside that section of the museum which states, "Be warned, 1 in 20 people faint when they see this part of the museum." There are currently 21 on this bus, so statistically, one of us is going down. As we turn this corner, look over to your right-hand side, you'll be able to see the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ the King. This is the Catholic cathedral in the city, but it's known locally as Paddy's Wigwam, because it's often said that Liverpool is an unofficial Irish city. We have a higher Irish population than Dublin in the late 18 to early 1900s. 70% of Liverpool's ancestry comes from Ireland as well. If anyone is wanting to go and explore the Catholic cathedral, I do ring the bell. No one? All Protestants today, John? Either way, peace be with you. But you can see the cathedral over there on the right-hand side. It was all said to be the largest Catholic cathedral in the world before the outbreak of World War II meant they ceased construction. And then, of course, what we have was finished in the 1960s, and it was a more modern design because the prices went up so much after the war they couldn't build their original designs. Look just ahead of you to the left-hand side. You see that little gate behind the tree and in between the tree and the front pub. Through that gate at the back of the front pub is the birthplace of John Lennon. John was born there on the 9th of October 1940. He was the only Beatle not born at home. The building where he was born still stands to this day. It's called Lennon Studios, and it's University Halls of Residence. So students now live on the site of where John was brought into the world. There's an English Blue Heritage plaque outside that building, so if you want to go and have photographs there, just go up to those gates I pointed out, ring the buzzer, and say that you are Beatles enthusiasts, and they'll buzz you right through, and you can go and have your pictures taken with it. But as John tickles those pedals and takes us to the left, welcome to Hope Street. Keep looking to your left, you'll see the Everyman Theatre. This is the theatre that started the careers of actors including Julie Walters, Pete Postlethwaite, Bill Nighy, Daniel Craig, David Morrissey, Stephen Graham, Jonathan Price, Bernard Hill and Jodie Comer, and many more. If anyone's wanting to stop for Hope Street, then of course ring the bell again. We've got a bus stop on the left-hand side here. If not, take a look at the pub on the corner to your right by the traffic lights. The one with green domes at the top of it. This is the Philharmonic Dining Rooms. If you show your bus tickets inside this pub, you get 20% off your first round of drinks, so double up. But not only that as well, this pub is where the secret concert at the end of Carpool Karaoke was filmed with Paul McCartney. 300 lucky locals were inside having a quiet drink when suddenly a curtain fell to reveal McCartney and his band who played a secret 3-hour concert for everyone inside. So you can imagine the extraordinary highs that must have given them a secret McCartney gig before the earth-crushing lows of the realization that they were in the same room as James Corden. Let's just hope he stays in the United States because we do not want him back. On the left is the Philharmonic Hall. This is where Buddy Holly played in Liverpool in 1957, and he was the support act. The headline that day was Des O'Connor. Rock and roll's finest indeed. Look to the right-hand side, there is a little alleyway street here. This is Rice Street. Halfway down this street, you'll see E-Craft Pub. That was John Lennon's favourite pub. He had his first date and his wedding reception to sit here. The school on the corner behind the tree was John Lennon's art school, and then look to the right, can you see the building with the pillars? That was the school where Butch Harrison and Paul McCartney met each other as teenagers. So we've got 3 of the Beatles went to these 2 schools on the right. And in the 90s, McCartney brought these buildings back and converted them into one drama school. He comes back every graduation day to hand out the certificates to the graduates. The next one is next week, so if you're around, you may see McCartney walking up and down this street just here. And now looking ahead to the right, you will see just why the Anglican Cathedral wouldn't have fitted in St John's Gardens. Not only is this the largest cathedral in Liverpool, it's the largest in England, it's the largest in Great Britain, it's the largest Anglican cathedral in the world, and it's the 4th largest cathedral of any religion anywhere in the world. Ring the bell if you want to stop here. The cathedral was designed by Giles Gilbert Scott. He was 22 years old when he designed this. He also went on to design Battersea Power Station, Waterloo Bridge, and the iconic British Red telephone box. It was constructed between 1904 to 1978. The central tower is the highest point you can reach in Liverpool. If you go to the top, you are so high up. Look left, you can see all the way through to Snowdon in Wales. Look right, you can see through to the mountains of the Lake District. And if you look straight ahead, on clear days, you can even see as far as Iceland. The supermarket down in Birkenhead. But as we turn right, the second house on your left, number 86, this is the home of Ada Shelby and Peaky Blinders. The owners of this property charged the BBC £2,000 per day to build inside here, which is mad because they could come around 9 for a tenner. Number 62, on the left is the birthplace of William Gladstone, who went on to become British Prime Minister a record 4 times in the 1800s. This street is also known as the Harley Street of the North, filled with doctors' surgeries. It's where you come for all of your nips and tucks, your Botox, your liposuction. Rumour has it that Anne Robinson was first constructed on this very street. The house on the left to the corner, number 34, is the former home of Henry Booth, who made his fortune in the Liverpool and Manchester railway companies. He had a young cousin called Julius, who wanted to be an actor, but he couldn't hold down a job. So he went to move in with his cousin here, Henry Booth, on the left-hand side for 2 years. Henry got fed up of his young cousin cramping his style, so he said, why don't you go over to America and try and make it as an actor over there? Henry paid for his cousin to get the ship across to New York, and he became a star of Broadway. He married an American woman, settled down, had a family. He had a son. His son was called John Wilkes Booth, the man who went on to assassinate Abraham Lincoln. So how different the history of the world could have been if Henry Booth would have been more tolerant of his annoying younger cousin Julius. As we turn this corner, look over to your left-hand side. You will see the Church of St. Luke's, which is known locally as the Bombed Out Church. It took a direct bomb hit on the 5th of May 1941. Everything inside was obliterated, and yet the shell of the building still stands to this day. The priest was inside when the walls caved in around him and the roof fell every single section of the church, and yet somehow he managed to survive and crawl to safety without a scratch. Whilst we're also here, to your right-hand side, you can see a restaurant there called Zorba's. I have nothing of historical value to tell you about this place, other than it's my favourite restaurant in the city. So, go inside there for a fine Mediterranean feast and tell them Gary from the Yellow Buses sent you. They have absolutely no idea who I am, but it's always nice to be recommended. However, they are closed on a Monday for catering classes, so you can go in there tonight, but only to learn how to cook Greek cuisine. If you're wanting to go for a meal, you'll have to wait, I'm afraid. However, if you are in Liverpool for another few days, it is more than worth it. Also as well, we're going to be venturing to the left-hand side here. If you're wanting food tonight, the street directly in front of us, across the road here, is Bold Street. Bold Street is filled from top to bottom with independent shops, restaurants and cafes. You won't find any chain restaurants on there, and everything is locally sourced to Liverpool, so it's well worth venturing down there. Either side of the road, just in front of us on street level, you will see two statues of Chinese food dogs. Look at the street signs, they're all written in red in Chinese Mandarin. The street lights are Chinese lanterns. And the majority of restaurants here are Chinese restaurants as well, and that's because we're approaching Chinatown. Directly in front of you, you're soon going to be seeing the largest Chinese archway anywhere in the world outside of China. This archway was gifted to us here in Liverpool by our sister city of Shanghai in the year 2000, hence its official name, the Millennium Arch. There are 200 dragons carved into it. Of those 200, it's said that 12 are pregnant. And it's foretold in Chinese folklore that if you look a pregnant dragon directly in the eye, you'll then have good fortune for the following 6 weeks. So when I get off the bus at the next stop, go and look at all of those dragons in the eye and then buy yourselves a lottery ticket, because who knows, it could be you. It's also said that Liverpool has the oldest Chinese community in Europe, dating back 170 years, which is only a fraction younger than Keith Richards. Also, there is a cocktail bar on the right-hand side on the corner called Petit Cafe. If you're wanting a nice, refreshing cocktail, it's a great place to go. And every evening they have live Parisian jazz, which is like regular jazz, but French. This building on the corner to your right as well, next to the archway with the dome on top and the pillars coming down, this is the Black E Art Centre, a concert venue. And in 1972, this is where Elvis played in Liverpool. 800 tickets sold out. People were inside, very excited to see the King. And then Elvis Costello walked out on stage, and it said that 2/3 of the audience left disappointed before the first song had even been completed. So it goes to show that false advertising does not work. On the right, all of this empty space is for the expansion of Chinatown. Come back here by the end of the decade, it's said our Chinatown will have tripled in size. One building which remains is the wedding house. It's got a vibrant mural of a liver bird on the side of it. This is your one-stop shop for weddings. Think of it as the Costco of weddings. People come from all around the UK to plan their weddings inside here. Within these 4 walls, you can sort out your venue hire, your caterers, your invites, your cars, your flowers, your suits, your dresses, your stag and hen do's, your honeymoon, whatever you need, they'll sort it out for you inside here. Now, we're going to be going through these 2 sets of lights and then turning right. However, if we were to continue going straight forward, that would take us through to Toxteth, a wonderful part of the city where many famous people from Liverpool have been born, such as Ringo Starr, who of course went on to become the narrator of Thomas the Tank Engine. He was also the 3rd best Beatle. We've also got the likes of Arthur Astley, Chris and Eddie Amu, Jimmy Tarbuck, Billy Fury, who was Britain's Elvis Presley. Also famous Evertonian Robbie Fowler was born in Toxteth before he was converted to the dark side. Jerry Marsden was born in Toxteth as well. Now, Jerry originally wanted to name his band Jerry and the Mars Bars, but the chocolate company threatened him with legal action. They said, you can't use our confectionery title in your band name, so instead he became Jerry and the Pacemakers. He then did something even the Beatles didn't achieve. His first 3 songs went directly in at #1 in the charts. The day after his 3rd song reached top spot, Mars Bars got back in touch and said, hey Jez, do you fancy changing your band name? To which he said, sorry folks, you had your chance, you snooze, you lose. And then to rub salt in the wound, in 1997, Jerry Marsden was paid £500,000 to do a series of adverts for Snickers. So well done, Jez, you show him who's boss. We're going to be turning over to the right-hand side now, which will be taking us onto Parliament Street, or Harley Street if you're local. Now, as we head onto this street, there's a set of traffic lights in front of us. At the traffic lights, look to the red brick building to the right. Now that building is Elevator Studios. Elevator Studios is one of the most important recording studios in England. And it's in this building in which some of the world's most talented bands and Coldplay have been to record tracks for their albums. Some of the famous people who recorded here over the last couple of years include the likes of Blondie, Shakira, Paolo Nutini, and many more. Not only that as well, look to your left-hand side, you'll be able to see here, this is the former location of Kane's Brewery. This is where the famous Liverpool lager was made until about 7 years ago, when they relocated to a more modern premises. This building today is called the Baltic Market, and this here is where you'll find a whole host of shops, restaurants and cafes. Look down to the left-hand side, look at the murals on the wall to your left. You'll see a mural of the Abbey Road zebra crossing. The reason we have an Abbey Road mural is because I can tell you as a tour guide, nothing makes your heart sink deeper than when tourists approach you and ask which direction is it to the Abbey Road zebra crossing, and we then have to say, I'm sorry, it's a 4.5-hour drive down to London. So to appease everybody, we painted our own on the wall. It'll save you having to go all the way down to the capital. We're going to turn left here. As we turn left, just in front of us on the left-hand side of the road, you will see a pub called the Coburg. Now, as we turn right, look up this road to your left-hand side, just where the Coburg pub is at the traffic lights. At the very top of that street, you will find the Yellow Submarine Bar. It's an old US Navy submarine, discontinued from service in the 90s and converted into a psychedelic Beatles pub. But Stanhope Street, the road it's on, walk up that street, there is no house number 9. The house numbers go 1, 3, 5, 7, 11. The reason why there is no number 9 Stanhope Street is because number 9 Stanhope Street is where in 1912 Adolf Hitler lived in Liverpool for 6 months. He went to live with his half-brother Alois. Now, Adolf then went back to Austria at the end of 1912, and his half-brother Alois emigrated to New Jersey in the United States in 1916, and he and his wife had 3 children. They all went on to fight for the Allies in World War II, so literally going to war against their uncle. They, of course, cut all ties with their family afterwards. But that street was also the last street in Liverpool to receive bomb damage in World War II. So when Liverpool Council rebuilt the road in the 50s, they decided to discontinue number 9 as house number, so nobody could say that they were to ever live on the site of where Hitler once lived in Liverpool. In all fairness, Adolf applied for a job in the Adelphi Hotel when he was here, and they turned him down for looking too scruffy. So well done to the Adelphi. On the left, Liverpool Marina. On the right, we've got the Water Sports Centre. There's a nice cafe inside here, but if you don't want to go to the cafe, go through these gates to the right. If you give them £6, they will give you access to the River Mersey for a 2-hour swim. They're open for another hour. If anyone wants to braving it, you can go in the water and have a swim in the Mersey. If you don't fancy going for the swim, they have canoes and pedalows as well. It is the second cleanest river in Britain, but it also is very cold, so please do bear that in mind. We've had a jovial tone of the tour, folks, but we are going to have to talk about something very serious for a minute, so I'm sorry to bring the mood down, but we do have to mention this, it's very important. Directly in front of you, you're about to see a statue of a Liverpool man named John Hulley, a controversial figure. I myself think this statue should be torn down, cast to the depths of the River Mersey, never to be seen again. I think John Hulley is one of the most wicked and evil men to have ever lived, and he has no right being represented in my city. John Hulley is the man responsible for bringing PE, that's physical education, to the schools of Great Britain. So how much childhood trauma has he caused over the years gone by? What a tyrant he was. If you look to the right, you can see the Anglican Cathedral. Now just imagine if this Catholic Cathedral would have been built to its original designs. The Catholic Cathedral was going to be 3 times larger than the Anglican. So how different Liverpool could have been. if World War II wouldn't have happened. It would have taken 200 years to have built, and we wouldn't even be halfway through because construction began in 1929. Over to your left, we've got the River Mersey. You can see the tide is out, but it will be back in shortly. Now, the River Mersey is 3/4 of a mile from one side to the other. At its widest point, it is 3 miles wide. And putting that as well, the River Mersey starts as a small stream in Scotland, heads through Manchester, Warrington, comes here to Liverpool, and it filters out in the direction we're trying to the Irish Sea, and merges into the Atlantic, which is why we have such strong shipping links with the east coast of the United States. On the right is the exhibition centre. This is where we've got the Beyond Van Gogh exhibition. Also is here as well. This is where you will find every year they have Liverpool's Comic Con and also the Labour Party conference. So a lot of conversation with nothing at all being achieved. Although, fingers crossed, slowly but surely we can start getting our country back. As we head further down this street, something you will see on the right hand side now, we have the M&S Bank Arena. This is the largest indoor concert venue in the city. It has a capacity of 11,500. It was in this building that we hosted the Eurovision Song Contest last year in May, which brought in 2 million visitors to the city over the course of 3 weeks. If you don't know what the Eurovision Song Contest is, it's an annual competition that's been going on for decades now. Every country in Europe submits a song. You have quarterfinals, semi-finals, and a grand final. The grand final, there are over 30 songs which are sung live, and then it goes to a public vote and judges vote, and Europe decides which is the best song of Europe that year. Some of the songs are spectacular and theatrical, others exist, but it's a lot of fun, and it's well worth getting involved with if you're ever in Europe when it's taking place. It takes place every May. As you turn the corner though, you can see now we're returning to Gower Street. On the left hand side we've got the Albert Dock just here. Now on the left you'll be able to see we're going to go over a speed bump in a moment. As we go over this speed bump there is a gap in the buildings. Look to the left, you will see the entrance of the Beatles story. It's a great Beatles museum. Last admittance to the museum is 5 o'clock, so you have 11 minutes to get inside there, so go, go, go. Also on the left you will see the entrance of the Albert Dock itself. Go through the Albert Dock doorway, turn right, 5 doorways up, you will find Rough Handmade Bakery, which is the greatest bakery in the world, in my opinion. Their croissants are so delectable, it's as if they were hand-rolled by Jesus himself. However, folks, we are now at the end of the tour, so when we come to a halt, everyone must disembark, and you must go forth and enjoy the delights of Liverpool. If you enjoyed yourselves today, downstairs next to Driver John, there is a little tip basket. Always greatly appreciated. If you can spare any pennies and drop it into the basket, but no problem at all if not. If you could please make sure that you go onto TripAdvisor, find the Yellow City Explorer page and say that Gary and John gave you a wonderful trip around the city, that we greatly appreciate it. However, if you haven't enjoyed yourselves, we've been Terry and June, and we'll see you all soon. And as we always do for the last lap of the day, we will leave you with the English National Anthem. So thank you very much, and enjoy your time in Liverpool, everybody.
Let's go, girls.
Okay, stop. Tara na.